This may come as a surprise, but I have dealt with body image issues my entire life. These manifested themselves in my addiction, before my addiction. They manifest themselves today. Let's get into it.
I'm JT. I'm in my mid-30s, have a 10-year media career, and nearly a decade of sobriety. So how did another middle-class kid turn into a blackout drunk and a heroin junkie? More importantly, how did it change, and where do we go from here? This is my story.
The first couple years as a kid, I was like any normal kid. And then around 7 or 8 years old, I noticed I was chubby. I started noticing I had a little more flab on the belly than other kids, than my family, than my sister, cousins, and certainly any of my other friends. And I started noticing also that none of my other friends seemed to have issues with eating like I did. It was weird. I'm sure some of them did. I'm sure many kids, when I was a kid my age, had issues with eating, but they don't really manifest themselves. I don't know how you talk about that as a kid, and so I just lived with it up here all the time. It seems like I was always hungrier. I was always getting in fights with my little sister about wanting to finish her food because she was totally, thin and running off the rails and perfectly happy, never didn't have enough to eat, and I was always wanting what was left on her plate. I was always wanting what was left on my friend's plate. And then, you know how kids are. Kids call you fat, you get picked on, all that stuff. And look, and you've seen some of the photos in my intro and all that. I was certainly not an obese child, but I was a chubby kid, and for whatever I looked like on the outside, on the inside, I felt 20 times worse. The way this manifested itself is I had issues with eating. Now, I'm not going to blame this on my parents, but we didn't have the most healthy food around the house all the time, and God knows my mom tried. But her cooking just was not her strong suit, okay? So I was drinking a lot of sodas. I was always attracted to fast food. It always tasted so good to me. And that might have been like the first cues of like there's going to be a drug or alcohol problem here, is I was just like, I gravitated to bad food so much. I craved it so much. I looked forward to it so much. The other thing was I wasn't the most active young child. I mean, I played all the sports and all that stuff with friends and everything, but when I wasn't forced to go out and do something, I really preferred to like read a book or sit in front of the TV or listen to the radio. I did a lot of that as a kid, and while that led to it probably led to my career, getting to have that access at a young age to music and radio and MTV and funny movies and all that stuff. As a kid, it isolated me, and it also led into a future of isolation with drug addiction, etc. And I was bullied a little bit as a kid. I won't go into that too much today, but there were certainly times where, the parents of the school had to intervene and stuff like that because of being picked on, being hurt. And it's really kind of crazy how it turned around, because all of a sudden, a few years go by, and when I become 12, 13, what happens? I grow out of this chubby stage. And all of a sudden, I'm playing sports, and I'm pretty good at the sports. And I'm getting attention from girls and stuff like that. And I won't talk about it too much today, but one thing I did want to note is that a really unfortunate thing happened. And since I had been picked on and bullied when I was younger and in my chubby stage, when I grew out of it, almost as like a defense mechanism, when I went into junior high, I started doing that myself. And it's a huge regret I have, and I could never possibly make all the amends on kids that me and my friends picked on or made fun of or anything like that in junior high. So I'm not blaming it on me having that experience as well, and therefore that meant that I could just push it on to someone else. But I think there's definitely a connection there. The only thing that really can be to blame for that is my own mental and emotional issues that I hadn't figured out yet and wouldn't be completely figured out. Still not really completely figured out. But like I said, diet wasn't great. I didn't even really figure out how to diet anywhere close to properly until a few years into sobriety. But I had come out of this chubby stage, and to be honest, I think probably I was in pretty good shape for most of my adolescence, teenage years. But all of that time, I still had the internal body image issues. I was always staring at myself in the mirror, wondering, how was I too fat? Did I have too much fat on my body? Obsessed with how I looked in pictures. I still have these problems today, looking at every imperfection all the time. And to be honest with you, I can't say that. I'm sure it's influenced by what we have in media, TV, what you're surrounded by, magazines when I was a kid. But really the thing that it stemmed from the most for me was those young years before I grew a little bit, when I had those chubby stages, being picked on, feeling not really good at anything, not really worth anything, not having any social currency, not feeling comfortable in my own house. That is always what influenced my problems with my body. And that's what still influences my problems with my body today. I'm not sad about it. I'm not looking back with resentment towards my childhood or anything like that. But it's just something I've lived with my entire life. And so it's part of who I am, that I'm always judging what I look like. And in college, this thing got totally turned on its head because I was in the height of my addiction, or inching towards the climax of my addiction. So I had many body fluctuations in college. I know a lot of people, even people who aren't addicts or alcoholics, can relate to this because of all the drinking, the not really having regimented eating plans. So I would have the stages where all of a sudden I look up and I go, I'm too heavy. I need to get focused on this some more. But when I got into opiates and heroin, it just went on a downward spiral because I didn't care anymore. And my mind was so warped. I was still looking at myself in the mirror all the time, but I didn't notice how out of shape I was getting. When I got sober, I was, and you've seen the pictures on my, it's on my Instagram, it's in the intro of the YouTube videos. I was about 210 pounds. So right now, maybe I'm a little bit under what my kind of good goal weight is, but my good goal weight is 175, maybe 180 if there's a good amount of muscle on that. So I was 210. I was at the very least 30 pounds overweight. I might have been even 215. Again, very rare for a heroin addict to be fat, but I was the fat heroin addict who had been eating a lifetime of eating bad, really, and certainly a few years of eating really, really bad. I've gone over it before. When I first got sober, I really got into working out again, but really regimented more with my exercise and really focusing on it and really getting in tune with my body more than ever before. But of course, still these body image issues, still looking at every picture, looking at every imperfection in the mirror. And this would go on and on throughout my sobriety. It's still that way today. I still struggle with it. It's so much today that I get comments daily, and this has been happening on and off for basically the whole time I've been sober. People tell me I'm too skinny. It happened probably 3 to 4 times last week. And I don't want to look too skinny either. I don't want to look fat, although I don't know how many people are going to tell you to your face you look too fat. But I hear I look too skinny all the time. And I don't want to look too skinny. I want to look right. So this certainly doesn't help my body image issues. But look, I'm a little fucked up in the head, okay? So I am driven by that chubby kid who's had body image issues his whole life to look a certain way. I don't want to get overweight. I am, now that I'm more knowledgeable about what my body takes in and how it looks when I have certain foods, I'm so sensitive to it that when I notice those things, I might just instantly cut something out for a while. I don't have really a healthy eating routine. Everybody thinks that I eat so well. That's because no one ever sees the crazy pigging out I do. I am pretty regimented Monday through Thursday, Sunday through Thursday. I have meal plans. I used to cook all my meals, but then when I had a little extra change, and these meal prep services came out, I started using those, and I've really enjoyed them. But basically, on Sunday or Monday, I start my strict eating, and I'm almost immediately fantasizing about my next cheat meal. And the problem is that for me, and I'm an addict with body image issues, I don't just have the cheat meal that's a healthy cheat meal that I'm not thinking too much about. I fantasize about it all week, and then I pig out almost to the point of pain when I have those cheat meals. So that's not necessarily healthy either. People who are nutritionists or who are bodybuilders or just health experts will tell you that a cheat meal is a good thing. You can't eat perfect all the time. The problem is when you're an addict like me with those body image issues I've had my entire life, it's not completely healthy to gorge yourself either. Gorge myself, excuse me. I should always just be talking about me. I try not to say your, make it seem like I'm speaking to someone else. This is just the case with me. That's not specifically healthy either. So I'm still trying to find that balance, even though I'm pretty darn good about my diet and exercise, all things considered. It still manifests itself in unhealthy behaviors. I probably work out too much. I don't get sick anymore, but early on, I would work out too much, not getting enough sleep, not eating enough, end up getting sick. Now I have enough nutrients. I've gotten really good about my supplements and my vitamins that doesn't happen hardly ever anymore. But the diet and the food and the intake part is still something I'm navigating. And I still, to this very day, I will agonize over posting a picture. I'll take a million pictures. The ones I actually post are few and far between because I'm analyzing every little imperfection on my body and my face. You don't know how hard it was. It's still kind of hard for me to post these videos because I am so hard on myself on what I look like in front of the camera. And I know it probably sounds absolutely insane to someone out there. And I know I'm at least average, decent looking guy, okay? I know I'm not ugly. I know I'm not fat. But that doesn't change. It goes back to the same stuff with addiction that I talk about all the time. Nothing that anyone says will ever change that little voice in the inside that I've been living with my whole life. The only thing that can change that is my actions and me putting forth the right work to balance that stuff out. And all the stuff I talk about every single video about doing the next right thing, about taking action, about taking small steps in front of me to fill my day so that I'm not going cuckoo, sitting with nothing to do, with nothing but to think about the stuff that's going on in my head. That all connects to this as well. Because when I'm doing all the things I need to do, including eating healthy, that means eating right and also eating a little bit wrong too, but not going overboard. I won't obsess over these things as much in my head, and I'll feel a little bit better about posting a picture or not think I have to doctor it to holy hell in order to post it. Trust me, I know. Some of you comment, but I know when I put too many filters on something and then I feel bad about that. So this is the crazy addict, okay? And before you say I'm too hard on myself, again, this is just part of the process for me. I have to get this stuff out. I have to show myself that I recognize these things because otherwise I'm not going to get better. I promise you, I will love to have the day when I can come in front of this camera and say, I haven't had any of these crazy thoughts. But you know what? That will be the day that I don't need to do these videos anymore. Okay, let's get the mail. Okay, first we're going to go to official Erica Ferrer. She commented on Instagram on the last video about staying sober during COVID, the pandemic, shutdowns, all that stuff. Erica says, I too have been in recovery for some time now. I was worried that the pandemic might affect my stability, but I was fortunate enough to keep my job and stay on track. I remain grateful, mindful, and kept myself busy and productive. Erica, you hit everything on the head there. Those are all the things that I try to do daily, before the pandemic even, and I'll try to do daily after the pandemic, but have been so important during the pandemic. And that's so awesome that it was something that concerned you. You recognize that it could be a flaw or a downfall for you, but you nipped it in the bud so it hasn't been. And even more importantly, you can acknowledge it now. See, that is something I will say. I am, maybe I think I'm just the right amount of hard on myself, but I'm probably not good enough at recognizing publicly good things that I do in my life. And that's a whole nother topic for another time. So Erica, I give you credit, not just for the things you've done, but that you feel comfortable enough sharing that you're doing the right thing too. I think that's freaking awesome. Because even when I'm explaining the right things that I do, doing the next right thing or filling my day and doing service work, all that stuff, I don't really feel like it's a congratulatory thing. It's just, these are the things I have to do. They're things that I have to do in my life to not go off the deep end. Thank you, Erica. Love you. Keep coming back to the videos. Keep going back if you go to the rooms too, for those who know what that saying is all about. All right, next we're going to go to Heather. Love Heather. She's a listener on the radio, so become a friend. She says, and she commented on Facebook to the video about staying sober during the pandemic. It's a daily struggle to stay sane. And Heather, by the way, is not alcoholic addict, but she's sharing in some of the same struggles. And that's, by the way, something, I don't want this to just be a community for addicts and alcoholics. I hope they all come. I do. But I want everyone, because this is not just about the crazy things of going through life in alcoholism and addiction, but the crazy things of going through life without all those things too. So Heather says, it's a daily struggle to stay sane when I'm alone with my thoughts 24/7. Hear that, especially as a hashtag concert junkie, and Heather is one. You think you're a concert junkie, you need to meet Heather. Her ticket stub collection is bar none, and I've met a lot of concert junkies being in the music business for a decade. A concert junkie who has not been to a show since March 1st, 2020. I'm actually kind of impressed that you got one in on March 1st, 2020, and no job since March 27th, 2020. Fortunately, I've got the two cutest fur babies to love me and lots of music to entertain me, both on the radio and in my personal, ever-expanding collection. Hugs to you, my friend. Hugs back, Heather. And you know what, Heather? You are the exact type of person that I try to surround myself with in my life, because your outlook, and to have your outlook and for me to connect with you, you have that outlook, helps me get through the day so much, because I am, left to my own devices, not that positive a person. I have to do the gratitude list, and I have to remind myself of all the amazing things in my life so that I don't go nuts with the bad stuff. And you have had far more of a tough time over the past year than I have, if you just add them up and list them. And yet you still have this incredible positivity. I mean, just to say that your fur babies are enough to get you through not having a job and not being able to go to a concert and socialize. And I know you've got other stuff going on in your life that makes it harder than most right now. I just have huge kudos to you, and that's why I wanted to share your message, because it just means the world to me to have people like you in this community. Helps me stay on track, helps me realize all the amazing things that I have in my life, and therefore helps me stay sane, stay sober, and stay coming back to talk with you guys. All right, that's the mail. I would love for you to reach out, feature you on the videos, or just start a dialogue over DM. Feel free to reach out at any of the following places, and we'll see you next time. Hey family, if you like what we're doing here and you want to see more, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Share it with someone who you think might benefit from watching this, and feel free to comment below. Love.